Good day, this is George Free, and welcome to another Martial Arts Media Business Podcast, episode number 42. I have today with me Amy Gardam from Edge Martial Arts in Mount Evelyn, Victoria. How are you doing today, Amy?
I'm good, thank you, George. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. So we're going to have a bit of a chat about you and running your school and a whole bunch of other things that have happened and the journey that you've taken to, if it's right me saying that way, that you really continuing a legacy within your family. Would that be the right way to say? All right, so we've got lots to talk about. So we're going to jump into the interview. Just a few things. The show notes for this interview is at martialartsmedia.com/number 42. So that's 42 as in the numbers. And that's it. Let's get started. So, Amy, first and foremost, tell us about you. Who is Amy Gardam?
Okay, so I'm a mother of two, married, got my husband. I started martial arts when I was 4 years old with my dad. We started in just a local school hall at the time, and eventually the martial arts took off, and he opened up a little part-time centre. And then when I was 15, just shy of being 15, I actually started teaching with him, just teaching the little kids. And from that moment on, I loved it, made it a career. And now I run the business with my two kids, and I'm a full-time working mum.
Okay, awesome. So you are running the business full-time and you're a mum. And so you're really just born into martial arts. This is everything you know, right?
My whole life I've done martial arts. It's all I've known.
All right, cool. So now you're also running the business, and that's just you at this point in time?
Yeah, running the business with my staff. But my husband has recently, in the last 3 weeks, quit his job as a welder to come on board, and we brought it together. So we are running the business together, and he's slowly learning martial arts, basically.
All right, awesome. So he's coming from a completely different angle then, right? Because so he hasn't trained martial arts yet, but he's also stepped in to help.
Yeah, he did kickboxing, but that was about 6 years ago. He did it for 6 years back then, but he's never done karate or mixed martial arts, no.
Okay, so what's the main reason that your husband has jumped on board into the business?
He didn't love his job. Welding was hard work. He always came home dirty, and he didn't like being dirty from work. But also being a mum and running this school, it was really quite tricky to do it on my own because we have two schools that are full-time, but this particular school I'm in at the moment, we actually own the building. And it was very hard to maintain just things like painting, light fittings, things breaking down as they do in a normal house, let alone a business, plumbing. I just couldn't do that and teach and run the bookwork by myself. So I said to him, let's do it together. He was really excited to leave his dirty welding job and, come on board and do it together.
All right, cool. So he's running a lot of helping with the business maintenance and things like that then for you.
Yes, yeah, that's mostly. He's just started answering phone calls and doing Facebook inquiries as well.
So your dad was Kyoshi Andrew Roberts, right?
Yes.
All right. So do you mind just sharing the whole story of what happened with your dad and what led into you running the whole business and everything full time?
Okay. So I started martial arts when I was 4, and in that time, when I turned 14 years old, I actually started teaching, and I've been doing it as a career ever since then. But I had my son Jordan 4 years ago and took some maternity leave. Everything was all good. And my dad actually got diagnosed with a brain tumour in June 2015. We'd noticed that he'd been forgetting a lot of things. His memory was hazy and his mood, it seemed like he had depression actually, but he was really grumpy. He didn't want to have family dinners. He didn't want to see any of us. And my mum took him to the doctors after he was sick one night, and they found the tumour. Then the week later they found it was actually brain cancer, and the worst form. It's called a GBM stage 4, which is the worst kind of brain cancer that you could get. They gave him 14 months to live, and Of course, in that time, you think that your dad is a superhero and he will be the one that survived, especially one as fit as him. You know, he had such a will and power to live that, you know, you just think that they're supernatural. They can, you know. So I never really, at the time, I was sad, I was upset, but I didn't really think much about it. So my husband and I, we wanted to have another child. So we fell pregnant with my daughter, April. And I had her last year in May, and I went on maternity leave. In that time, my father came to the hospital and visited me, but his memory started getting worse. He went back for a scan, and they found the tumour had grown back bigger. And the doctor said that the chemotherapy wasn't working. So he was getting the most powerful type, and they couldn't do anything else. So basically, from that moment, he was in palliative care. There was nothing more they could do for him. We just had to, I guess, just keep enjoying the time that we had left with him. So slowly he went downhill. He lost the ability to move. He was in a wheelchair. He stopped remembering who we were, and he just started sleeping. He just wouldn't get out of his chair, started sleeping a lot. Then one day we used to laugh because we'd take turns checking on him. Now, at this stage, he was still talking and stuff, and we called it daddy daycare. So we'd actually go and sit by his bedside, and if he wanted up, great. But one morning I went in there, and he just wouldn't wake up. He was just not responsive. And, you know, I called my mum in, so I had to pop into the shops to get some things for her. I came back that afternoon, and he was still in bed. And I thought, oh, normally he's up by now. And he made a really strange noise, and I called my mum in. She came to check, and, you know, from that moment on, we knew this was the end. We didn't know how many days he had left. He lived another week and a half, but he was unresponsive. He didn't eat. He drank tiny bits of juice or water. And the palliative care nurses came to visit, and they said, yeah, it could go on for days. We had no idea how long it would be. So November 22nd, he actually passed away from the cancer. He was asleep. He was, as far as they tell us, it's peaceful. And we were by his bedside. All of his daughters, we sat by him every second of the day, and spoke to him and told him funny stories that we remember from being little, and, you know, making sure that the last things that he heard from our voices were the happy things, the things that we remember, and the amazing stories and times we had with him. So that was very nice that we had the opportunity to do that, but an absolutely devastating situation. It's horrible. And yeah, so that's how I, you know, came to take over the business. I wasn't sure if I could continue on, but you know, I did. I decided that my dad worked very hard in this business, and his whole life him and I worked together. We used to be training buddies. We'd go to seminars together. We'd even be at home watching DVDs of new you know, material, new teacher techniques, and we'd be practicing in the lounge room, and, you know, Mum would yell at us because we'd be in her way or we'd kick something over. We were like two kids. But, you know, there was just too many memories just to walk away, so I decided to continue Edge On as hard as it was. I walked back in and held my head up high and just did the best I could, still am.
You decided to edge on. Is that a slogan? Is that something that you guys stand?
I actually haven't used that before, but I'm going to use it now.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, you do. You work. I mean, I worked 15 years in this, you know, because I'm nearly 30. 15 years of my life in this business. I don't want to just give that up, because the only other thing I've done is be a qualified swimming teacher. I'm not anymore, but that was the only other thing I've actually done as far as a career. So this is the only career I've ever known. But then I sort of sat back and thought, well, my dad did this our whole life, and it actually brought me closer to him. The moment I walked back into the dojo doors, I felt like he was there. I felt close to him, and I felt happy to be here. I preferred to be here than at home. This was my home.
Amazing. So you truly are living a legacy.
I think so. That's a good feeling. The moment I came back and I saw all my students, I actually felt closer to him, like he was still here with me. So from that moment on, I thought, yeah, I can do it. And, you know, I will do it, because I mean, like I said, I've been training since I was 4 years old. I've been teaching since I was 15. So that's been, nearly half of my life. So I'm nearly 30, teaching in this business. And just to walk away, just been silly. It's a long time just to walk away from something. So I decided to continue it on. I loved my students. I love teaching. I have so much passion for teaching. That made me feel better, just seeing my kids and seeing my students. And that's when I said to my husband at the end of the year, you need to jump on board. And my mum, of course, inherited the business from the will. And I spoke to her in February this year, 2017, and she said to me that she can't do it anymore. She doesn't want a part of it. So it was just too emotional for her. So she said, do you want to buy it? So we said, well, yeah. Obviously, it took a few months, and we did the switch over at end of financial year because it just made sense. And that's really sort of the story that, like you said, is continuing his legacy. Just to not do that, like he's such a big part of the community here up in Mount Evelyn and the local areas that everyone knows him. His funeral was so booked. We had people down the street, and we had I couldn't tell you, but a couple of thousand people actually there just to say their final goodbyes. So it's very important.
Well, that's quite a story, and my hat off to you just going through all that, but really turning things around because, like you're saying, there's so many parts of this, right? Because you actually have to deal with the fact that you've just lost your dad, who's also been your teacher your whole life. And now you've got to, you've got two choices to make, right? Do you abandon it and let it not be anything and leave it to someone that might buy it over, but there's not that emotional drive behind it because there's not that real passion about what was the business, which was the family as well, or face it and really just take it on, which is what you've done. That's quite amazing.
Exactly.
So how
Thank you.
You're welcome. So how are you finding this?
Well, some days, like yesterday, if you'd asked me the same question, I don't think it was. But most of the time, I've got staff here, so they're really fantastic. They do a really good job. They're fantastic instructors and they're very motivated people. But with the kids, so sometimes the kids come to work with me, and it's not so much teaching, but they'll come and I'll be doing office duties, and I've set up a little play area for them. But at home, the house is not as clean as it used to be. There's a lot more washing, but that's all right because husband's told me that he's going to do the washing tonight. Whose house doesn't have washing though? But yeah, other than that, it's going good. I think it mostly helps. Just knowing that where I've come from and what we've been through. That I was by my dad's bedside when he passed away. I was with him 24/7, and if I believe if I can get through that, I can get through anything. And at least I love doing what I'm doing. So I'm not doing a job that I hate. I get to come to work every day doing something that I love, and that's what keeps you going as well, keeps you pushing.
All right, awesome. What was it like for the first time for you stepping back into the school?
That was hard. It was hard because he's got photos and grading certificates everywhere. So, the whole school itself has got lots of photos of him, but it was nice to see, nice to look at that I've got all these memories that I can actually look back on. It was just mostly hard because all of a sudden, even though he gave me the title of sensei, and I'm still sensei, I really realised, wow, there's no one else now. I'm the top. I'm the head instructor. So everyone's going to come to me, even though I was used to people coming to me for questions, and that was a big part of my job as being sensei. Now there was no one to go to and go, hey, what do you think of this? Or what would you do if this happened? Or I need your help. I need your advice. And that was probably the hardest part because that all of a sudden hit me and I'm like, wow, this is a really big responsibility, not just for teaching martial arts because, to me that's just like a walk in the park now, but, having to deal with business calls and people wanting to do this and changing this detail, and I didn't understand any of that. Like, I'm still learning how to do bookkeeping. That's hard.
Right. Okay, so but you've got your husband that's helping with that role, and so how are you guys finding a balance in who's going to handle which task of the business? Obviously, it's you the teaching and so forth. How are you finding the balance?
Well, still at the moment, I'm doing a lot of teaching because my head instructor's still away. Once he comes back, I can step back a little bit because he's awesome, but we gave him 5 weeks just to go and travel the world. So I don't have to be on the floor teaching as much, which will give me a little bit more of a break. I can be at home with my kids a little bit more. But still, of course, I want to be still a big role because I love being here. But he's fixed a lot of stuff. So a lot of things that were broken down, like simple things like just lights not working, just calling an electrician to come in and fix it. Now all that stress I don't have anymore. He's doing that. He's like yesterday I said to you our FPOS machine decided to stop working. Don't know why. The line just wasn't there. So he's ringing. The electrician couldn't fix it. So next minute he was on the phone to our bank and got a new machine in one day. So if that was me, I wouldn't have had the time to have made all those phone calls, and I wouldn't have been able to, because my kids get looked after when we're both here by, family. So I wouldn't have had the time to be here all the time. And so those things, repairs and maintenance, he does really well. Then he's just started learning to take inquiries over the phone. So when the phone rings, he's been answering a few calls today, which is nice. I'm doing my bookwork on my computer. He's answering calls. And he's taken over our Facebook page along with me because we're both admin on it. But he's been answering a lot of inquiries. So he's slowly starting to learn how to sell martial arts, explain the benefits of martial arts to, our prospective clients. And, the more he does it, the more he's going to get better, which will give me more of a balance to do the things that I'm good at, like teaching.
For sure. So, and also just to put things into perspective, because we didn't cover this in the beginning, just the where our conversation started. But if you put some numbers around the business, how many students do you have at your location?
So we have the 3 schools. So Mount Evelyn here, we have, I think, in total we have 578 this week, and that's all our total. So Mount Evelyn here runs 6 days a week, which has the bulk of it. Our school down in Chernside Park is about 10-15 minute drive down the road, and it has just reached to 110. And we have a satellite school, we call it, up in Woorolloc, which is probably about 20 minutes up the road. And that school there has 50 students just running 2 classes one night a week. So in total, we're on that about 578, with a lot of new people coming in this week. So nice and big.
That's awesome. So how are you? How much time are you spending with your involvement within the satellite school and your other location as well?
Yep. So the satellite school in Woorolloc, I go there every fortnight, and on the Wednesday night I'll pop up there for the 2 classes, teach with my head instructor there, and then of course come back to our main school here. And then at Chernside Park, I'm there in the mornings on a Tuesday morning, and then Thursday afternoons I go there and I teach as well. And then, of course, in the daytime you might pop in, do a little bit of bookwork, just check on paperwork, all that sort of stuff. But most of my time is spent at Mount Evelyn. Okay,
now tell me what, and just going back in the story again, right? So when the big change happened and your dad sadly passed away, what was the response? And you mentioned there was such a big following and so much support for your dad. What was the response within the school? Did anything change with the students at that time?
Yes, we did. We dropped in that year because the same year he was sick. So last year in May, I actually had my daughter. So I went on maternity leave for 6 months. So I didn't come back until sort of, end of August, September time. And that's when he really started going downhill. So I think I only came back for 3 weeks to work again after maternity leave when he got ill. And because he was ill, I wanted to be by his bedside. We knew he was dying. I wanted to be there every second that I could. And we lost last year. So my instructors did a great job with what they had. And but we did lose around about 76 to 80 students in total from our total count. So that's a huge drop for a school to lose, in sort of 8 months' time, because I wasn't here much. Of course, he wasn't here from mid-year last year, and it's going to affect your business. It's, students have grown up with him as well as their head instructor. It could be your black belts, it could be little kids. But the other thing we found, and it's okay, is that the emotions that we were dealing with, some people didn't want to have a part of that. Everyone has their own agenda and everyone has problems in their own life. So we understood that we would lose people because they couldn't be around us, maybe because it was we tried not to make it a sad atmosphere, but it's going to affect us. You can't change that. And we were okay with people. Some people came up and said, look, we thank you for your time, but we won't continue on. And some people sort of left after he actually did pass away. Because, of course, it made them sad to be here. So, and that was okay. We knew this would happen, but we had a lot of people stand by us and just support us. And I had people, my black belts, jumping in. I'll do the class for you. Don't worry, we've got your back. We're here for you. And we'll be forever grateful for them sticking by us and all the students that have. So, but it's going to affect you. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right, and have a lot of those students come back after that, now that everything's sort of settled down a bit, that people have changed their perspectives, or?
Yeah, look, we've seen a few, but when I say a few, it's only about 8 or 9 students that I can think of off the top of my head that have actually come back and had that little bit of a break. We still have, students that come back from a few years ago that left us, but for that time, it's not, I think, because it was such a big part of people's lives and, a lot of my black belts, most of my black belts stayed. A couple of them just couldn't deal because they were just so upset, and especially the teenagers. They're already going through their teenage problems, their teenage dramas, and I think that was just one more emotional thing that they couldn't deal with. So, but we haven't got a lot of people back from that time. But we have joined up a lot of new people, which is nice. It brings a freshness to the centre.
That's awesome. So, because you're just going to have that change in people moving on. And that's maybe it was just time for them anyway to move on. And sometimes when you look at things like that in business, you look at it as there's the downfall in it. That people are leaving. The first thing you always look at is, why is this happening? It's so frustrating. The effects of a situation, but then there's always, and I try to train myself for this, is always try and look for where's the lesson in it, or why is this really happening? Is it a need? Is that where the business now needs to take a new direction, or just make a change? And that's within your case, that's obviously where new blood is coming in, new students, and although they're not, maybe aware of the history and everything, it's not that they were really part of that whole the event happening and so forth.
Yes. Yeah. So we needed to, I came in this year, so after having some time off at Christmas, of course, as we all do, a couple of weeks, we went away on holiday. I came back and I said to my husband, I go, right, we need to change some things around, not just with, classes and sort of structure, but we also need to change a little bit around the business so people can see that we still care. I'm still, very much my whole life is invested into it, that we want Edge to grow bigger and better. And so the first thing I did was actually change our whole reception and office area, our front pro shop, everything. I just went in and said, that's it, I'm moving everything around. And I changed it. I got some new cabinetry put in, and everyone walked in, they're like, wow, that's amazing. And it was really just to show them that a change has happened. We need to just, that big change has happened, but we want to now make, positive changes. We want to show you that this is the new Edge. It's my school now, and, I want everyone to understand that, I love it. I'm passionate about it, but, this is the way. Last year, we had our problems, our downfalls, the thing that devastated us. But this year, it was like brand new year, boom, let's go. Let's make it bigger, brighter than ever. have more people here, build up the students, build up the school, make it look better. Or even, we're painting and just changing colours too, just so people can see the Edge is still the same fantastic school that he built, but now it's just going to get better. It's going to grow and get bigger and better than ever. That's my goal.
That's awesome. Well, hats off to you. You're doing an amazing job. And I'm sure if I actually interviewed somebody else other than you, they would give me much more insight about your skills and how you are handling all this between the teaching and everything else. So what's your vision now going forward? Where do you see you taking Edge Martial Arts?
Well, short-term goal. So short-term goal this year is to finish out the year on over 600 students. So we've never officially reached, I think we've reached 599 was our biggest count we've ever had. And this year I want to finish with, sort of at least 601. 601 students is how I want the year to finish, active students. So that's short-term. But long-term, I want to eventually create another full-time school. So similar area, but, another 20 minutes, half an hour away. So it hits a different market. And that'll be next year, create a new school and, just slowly start expanding. My dad always really wanted to have many different schools everywhere. And I, at the time, you sort of having kids, I was like, yeah, I'm really happy doing what I'm doing, but I can't take on board another school myself. And but now having my husband on board, having awesome staff and instructors, I want to have another school. And, one day would be really nice to turn around and say, yeah, we've got 1,000 students in total. Or, I've got 3 senseis at my schools. That's always been a really big goal, is just to make it bigger and better. And a really big market for myself personally is I've always wanted to go into the field of, helping women that have been abused or in a violent relationship, and go down that path of just empowering women and getting them to, be stronger and just help them learn martial arts and, be more confident in themselves, especially women. So that'll be a personal goal that I will look towards in the future when my kids are a bit older.
All right, fantastic. So what are you going to do different? So you've gone through all this and you've grown up in martial arts and you've got all this experience. Now you open that 4th location. What will you do different based on everything that you've learned?
So everything that I've learned, the things I'd do different would just make sure that the person, obviously you've got to have an instructor that's in charge of that school, and I myself oversee it, but make sure they really have 110% heart in teaching as well, because my teachers now, they're absolutely phenomenal. But over the years, as every martial arts school has, had teachers that might start off passionate and then slowly dwindle down, and you can see how that affects your school. But I want to be surrounded by people that, love teaching martial arts, love dealing with kids. So I would really make sure that, all my instructors just are passionate about martial arts. The other thing I would do different, just structuring things different. I think because I was only young when this business started, it's like, I've grown up in it, but I never had control of it. So I'd have ideas, I'd have inputs, and they were always taken on board and used because, my father valued me so much. But at the end of the day, you don't have the final say when it's not yours. No one does. Any employee doesn't have the final say. But I would just change some systems and just, it's like starting afresh. So I think that's really what I'd change. But other than that, I love our school. I love our curriculum. I love our culture. So I don't need to change any of that because that to me is perfect.
Okay, fantastic. So are you already looking, do you have those instructors in mind that you are grooming for that role?
Yes, I do. And she just started part-time with us this year, actually. I've got 2. But one, obviously, I want to make sure I keep one at our main school. I've got another instructor that is going to look at buying our Churnside school down the track, though. Not happening anytime soon. You've got to make sure they're going to manage it the way that you want it to be run. And but I do have a young girl we started part-time. She's just full of life, full of energy, very, very passionate. And we've just got another young casual started on board too. So you never know, in a couple of years after they're finishing school, they might want to do this as a full-time job too. hopefully.
Yeah, for
The more
sure.
the better.
Do you actually now when you see potential like that, do you actually bring it to their attention that there is a career path that they can take?
Yes. Yeah. If I see this, this something got on my screen then.
I can't
Can
see
you
it.
still see me?
I can see
Oh, you
you.
can't see. Okay, good. So these, I usually will sort of grab, they'll be casuals with us and they could start at the age of 14 years old. And as time goes on, they're going to get really, really, really good at their job because they're loving it. But I will always come up and say, you know what, you're doing fantastic. I want you to work maybe an extra day because I really need you and I want you to be here. The kids love you. And if they're that good, I think you should tell them, make them aware that they're very good at what they're doing. And then you'll find out, just by the energy they give you back, it'll be a simple smile or just their face will light up because they feel really good that you've given them compliments and they enjoy what they're doing. So hopefully, you build them up and you talk to them and say, this would be a great career. We'd love to have you if you're ever looking at a part-time job or a full-time job after school. There's one here for you if you want it. And with this young girl that I've just put on this year, that worked well for her. And she was really excited. So last year she was going to go to uni. She actually tried out uni for 2 months and she just didn't like it. She goes, no, I want to be a martial arts instructor. So that worked out well.
That's amazing. Send people to school and then they find their true purpose and leave school for martial arts. Good choice. To all the kids listening, that'd be great.
It is a great job. It is a great career. I'm not going to lie. I love it.
Awesome. Amy, it's been great chatting to you. So if anybody wants to follow your journey and find out more about you, where can they find out more about Edge Martial Arts and what you do?
Well, we have our website, so edgemartialarts.com.au. We also have our Facebook page, so we always upload things on there. We also have our foundation we run in my father's name. It's called the Kyoshi Andrew Roberts Foundation, and that foundation we actually use to get. Basically, we want to it's charity, so we're getting money to help people if they're ever in the situation. It doesn't matter if it doesn't have to be brain cancer. It's not about stopping brain cancer. It's about actually helping families who have a loved one that may be in palliative care. And instead of taking them to a hospital or a hospice where they need to stay there and that's where they spend their final days, you can actually do it at home like we did. We were very lucky because of our business. It gave us, the income that my parents could afford to keep my dad at home. Mum bought the best bed, the best couches for him to sit in and be comfortable. So the last few weeks of his life, he, could be at home surrounded by his family. Now, not everyone gets that opportunity. So our foundation is to help people, to just offer them the support, even if it's something as simple as getting a house cleaner in because you can't, maintain your own house, or just being able to buy, some of the equipment like wheelchairs and toilet seats and things like that that can help you to keep your loved one at home if they are in the devastating end of palliative care. So you can follow the actual journey of how he lived the rest of his days, the rest of his life on the Kyoshi Andrew Roberts Foundation site on Facebook. Otherwise, Edge Martial Arts Facebook page. You can follow us there. Website, Facebook. We're everywhere.
Awesome. We'll put all those links in all the show notes that can be accessed.
That would be great. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Amy. I will speak to you soon.
You're welcome. Thanks, George. Bye.
Bye.